Well, you got grit? I mean, it takes grit to go through life. Life is not for the faint of heart. Life is not for cowards. Life is for those who are willing to be bold and to step forth boldly into what is ours to do. The people who struggle the most with life, I believe, are the ones who are afraid of life, afraid of their own life, afraid to claim their own grit. As this reading from Absolute Abundance, written by Reverend Ken Daigle, a friend of mine from Unity San Francisco, says that of all of the qualities of our lives, he's saying that the one quality that most determines our success is grit. Not necessarily our educational level or what our accomplishments or titles are, not even our race or gender or whatever, but it's having grit. Grit is that ability to hang on, to persevere, to put in practice our faith, our belief in what is ours to do and what needs to happen. Now, the power of the month of January is faith. And faith is a power that we can put in a number of ways. Some people use faith in the way of believing that they can't do anything. Some people believe that they are powerless. They are using the power of faith, but using it in reverse. It's like I was driving down the highway one day, and I realized I was approaching the car in front of me very, very fast. And I thought, I'm not going that fast. And then I realized they were driving in reverse in a lane on the highway. They thought that was a good idea because they had missed their turn. They weren't even on the shoulder. They were in a lane on the highway. And I thought, woo! That is putting the power of faith, I believe I need to do this, but let's go backwards. That's what it is when we believe that we do not have power, when we believe that there's nothing that we can do about our situation or about the situations that we see in the world. That is what happens when we give up hope. We still innately have the power of faith, but it's a matter of what we want to do with it. Now, I prefer, once in a while I need to back up just to get into a new position, but I prefer to go forward. When I'm on the road coming across from Kailua on the Pali Highway, I prefer to go forward. How do you want to use your faith? Grit is that ability to continue to go forward regardless of how things look on the outside. Now, some people take from that, grit, like Thomas said, it has this sound that's kind of like what it means. Grit. It's like, And when I put out yesterday on Text in Church that today I'm going to be talking about the creation of the beloved community through grit and joy, someone responded back and, commented that that's an interesting juxtaposition of two things that they would not have connected. Grit and joy. How do you have grit and joy? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is a great example of how to do both. He loved people and he enjoyed what he was doing, and he had grit and determination about what needed to happen and about creating the beloved community. When one looks at the speeches and writings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he continues over and over again to refer to the creation of the beloved community. What is that? He referred to it as that community that works together, supports one another, listens to each other, is there for each other, regardless of race, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of whatever your faith tradition may be, regardless of whatever may be going on in your life. What is that beeping? Does anybody know? He knew that what is being created, someone going in reverse. Is someone here going in reverse? Your reverse beeper is going off. Okay. Thank you. That is perfect. And Martin Luther King Jr. knew that creating the beloved community is about creating a world where hunger, poverty, homelessness, injustice, and prejudice would not be tolerated or accepted as normal. I just wanted to pause there because many of us think that poverty and prejudice and homelessness and these various things are normal. They're not. They're not normal. And we have all the resources that we need in this country, in this world, to create a world that works for everybody. Whatever your sexual orientation, however you identify with gender or gender fluid, whatever your race, whatever your faith tradition or lack thereof, whatever your ethnicity, whatever your language, wherever you come from, we are all in this together, and this world has all the resources that are needed. In fact, we are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones that can shine our light locally. So we think globally, but act locally. Every Saturday morning, there's a number of us who are in the integral ministry, help me, Thomas. Integral ministry practice. I'm in it I'm doing homework every week, but it's like, help me out here. And yesterday we were working with an author, Dr. Jim Lockhart, who is from Centers of Spiritual Living. He's a Centers for Spiritual Living minister and trainer and works with churches and boards. And he's written 2 books or more, but 2 books especially that I wanted to lift up: Creating the Beloved Community and Being the Beloved Community. And I brought up the question, since I have numerous times in my life at various churches and spiritual communities attempted to create the beloved community, which has been met with wonderful successes and some great disappointments. And I wanted to know, what hope is there to do this? Is it possible? He absolutely believes it is possible and that it's important for us to do this on a local level, right where we're at. Because obviously, it's difficult for us to think about how to solve everything, and this church has contributed to those who have been suffering in Ukraine, just so you know. But what is it that we as a community can do? Forgive the biographical information I'm about to give you, autobiographical, but as a teenager, I was studying Mahatma Gandhi because I was drawn to the whole idea of how do people work together even though they're not empowered by the government, even though they're not empowered by title or status. How do they work together to create community and affect change in the world? That fascinated me as a teenager, and it has since then. So I was reading the writings of Mahatma Gandhi. And I continued reading various authors, as I went through college and seminary and on through my life. And in the Church of the Nazarene that I grew up in and had been ordained in, I was teaching a particular book and style that is called Partners in Ministry, where we are all partners together, where we each bring forth our gifts, our skills, who we are. It's good to be in receivership. Do you know what I mean by receivership? Receivership is, as I was sitting there this morning, and Becca and Alethea doing a fabulous job, and it was just, I was in this blissful state of prayer and receiving and being in the presence. That's receivership. And we all come to church or come to church online or to a part of a spiritual community because we receive something from it. It helps us. It builds us up. It helps us to be more of who we are. And as we come into more of who we are, we need to share that. We need to express that. So receivership leads towards sharing who we are, sharing our gifts, sharing our talents. So this is what Partners in Ministry was about. And it's really about creating the beloved community. I've approached it from different angles. The first church that I ever really had a position in, I was the youth director of an inner city church while I was going through seminary, an inner city church that was in Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas City, Missouri. How many people here are familiar with Kansas City, Missouri? Way more than I expected. Okay. 29th and Troost. How many people would be familiar with the area of 29th and Troost? Anybody? Okay. 29th and Troost is very inner city, and I worked in that area and was the youth director of a church in that area. And so as I was working, I would be approached by sex workers, prostitutes. I would be, passing people who were, on drugs and substances. I mean, it was inner city, right? You got the picture? And so this is where I was a youth director. When I became the youth director, there were 3 or 4 kids. And they were black, okay? And if you haven't noticed, I'm white. I know. I thought I'd just let you know. And so here I was working in an inner city setting. I had grown up kind of affluent suburbia, but here I was working in inner city, white, working with those who are black. And my friends in seminary said, "You can't do that." I said, "Why?" "You don't understand them. They don't understand you. You won't be able to relate to one another." I said, "I am called to do this. I know I'm called to do this." They said, "No, you're not." Here's the power of grit. Okay? Can you just hang with me here, regardless of that beeping, whatever that is? I am a little ADD. It's like, what is that? So, I knew I was called to do it. But here were people saying, "You can't be called to do that." Grit is knowing what is ours to do and standing in it. Whether we've done it before or not, whether it makes sense to others or not, knowing what is ours to do. Grit is not about going with the flow. Grit is like salmon swimming upstream. Grit is about persevering and moving forward even when there's pushback. Okay? So I thought, this is mine to do. I don't know what to do with these friends of mine. But in any case, I know what is mine. And it was one of those times where I learned to listen to what's going on inside. That group grew from 2 to 3 kids to 25 kids. All black. And I was working in their families, in their homes, being with them in the week, being with them on Sundays, because when you do youth ministry, it's not about, in fact, any ministry, is not about just expecting people to showing up on Sunday. It's about being involved with people through the week. I was working at nights. Monday through Friday, I was in a master's level divinity program, 15 hours per week, which is a heavy load, expected to read and assimilate and understand 600 pages per week of like German theologians and Hebrew and Greek, okay? But I knew I was called to this. We formed a youth choir. And we built these connections of understanding. Yeah, I was this white, grew up in this affluent suburban area, and I was working with kids that were having kids. Our youth group included childcare. And it's like, we were able to create beloved community together by listening, by understanding, by being involved in each other's lives, by being there for one another, by bringing forth the highest and best in each other. When I graduated from seminary, I thought, I need to go somewhere else to be the senior minister, but I really felt this connection with them. And I remember Esther, one of the kids in that group, part of a family, Esther coming up to me. And Esther said, "Tim, why do you need to leave? We love you here. And you belong here. We connect with you here. Why do you have to leave?" That is beloved community. Some of you wonder why we are working on this integral ministry practice. Some of you wonder, what is it about? Some of you wonder, where is it going? It's about this. It's about creating the beloved community and being that right here. With you online, creating that community with you so that you are not distant and second class. You are part of this ohana so that all of us here are all one family working together. That's our goal. And we already have a lot of that. I feel it. I feel it here. When I see how people are interacting and supporting each other, when I see our inclusivity, when I see our desire to volunteer and to be involved, and I want to change that word volunteer to engaging in sacred service, because we grow when we engage in sacred service. We grow when we involve and engage ourselves, when we use our talents and our gifts to support the beloved community. I want to share from the book of Acts. How many people here have an allergy to the Bible? Thank you for your honesty. I appreciate that. I don't want to bring on any allergic reactions. There's a lot of good stuff here, and if it had ever been used in a way that was harmful, abusive, coercive with you, I am so sorry that happened with you. That's not its purpose. So, Acts chapter 4. The book of Acts is about what happened after Jesus left. And the apostles, the ones he had been training, the leaders he had been coaching and mentoring, became the ones who were leading the movement. At some point they began to be called Christians, but not yet. At this point they were called followers of the way. They were called followers, but they weren't even called Christians yet. They were Jewish. Okay? In Acts chapter 4, starting at verse 32, in the gathering or the congregation or the multitude or the community of those who believed were all of one heart and soul. They were of one heart and soul. They were absolutely together on what their mission was, what their purpose was, what they were about. Not one of them claimed that anything belonging to them was their own. All things were common property for them. That is, they shared of their resources with one another. Now that's a little challenging for some of us who grew up with the idea, okay, I earned this, this is mine. If I'm really feeling good about it, I might squeeze out a few dollars here and there. But this, they had all property in common. With great power, the apostles were giving witness to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and abundant grace was upon them all. I want to emphasize abundant grace was upon them all. It was not about just a few. It was not about the sage on the stage. It was not just about the board. It was not just about a few designated leaders. They all took ownership in their community. All of them. They wanted to create this beloved community. For there was not a needy person among them. I'm saying this stuff slow because I want it to sink in. It is so countercultural. I hope your heart can just let it in. There was not a needy person among them. Have you ever been in a group where there was not a needy person among them? It was because they were all there for each other, creating the beloved community. For all who were owners of land or houses would sell them and bring the proceeds of the sales and lay them at the apostles' feet, and they would be distributed to each as any had need. In other words, they wanted to make sure that the community was supported. They wanted to make sure that everybody had what they needed. They wanted to make sure that everybody stepped into their highest and best. They wanted to make sure that everybody was part of this community and engaged in the community. That is what we are working towards here. And that is the vision that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had. Some people want to know, how do you celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day? Well, yes, some people will go to the beach. Don't have to go to the bank because the bank's closed. Some people have the day off. Who's going to the parade tomorrow? Me too. So some of us will be I'll be in the parade. So, there's various ways to celebrate. I believe the best way to celebrate is by creating the beloved community. That is the best way for us to celebrate that dream. That is what we are really about. You'll be hearing more and more about the beloved community. But see, it requires some grit. You may want to see, okay, where's the strategic plan? Where's A, B, C, D, E, F? Okay, give us some time. We're all doing this together. Right? We're creating this together. But I'm encouraging you to be a part of that beloved community. Whether you are online, whether you are here with us physically, wherever you are in the world, to be that beloved community. When you see somebody who is different, I encourage you to see them as community. When you see somebody who is being ostracized or put down, to stand up with them. I might need to repeat that. You may not have understood what I just said. If you hear someone of another race being put down and some racial comment being made to them, I'd like to encourage you to stand up with them. If you see someone of a different sexual orientation that's being put down and marginalized, I'd like to see you stand up with them. I just want you to breathe into that. Sometimes people come away from my messages and they say, that was a great message, but I don't know what to do with it. Hey, there's plenty you can do with this. It's how we treat each other. Jesus quoted from the Jewish law from Leviticus 19:18 when he gave what he considered one of the two greatest commandments, to love your neighbor as yourself. And the reason for that is your neighbor is yourself. The way you treat others is the way you are treating yourself. It's the way we are treating the presence of God, because each and every one of us are the presence of God in action. Each and every one of us. Do you believe that? Do you believe that you're the presence of God in action? Do you? Do you believe that each person you meet is the presence of God in action? Mostly. That's honest. Oh, no exceptions. Either, and this is why we do the quantum living process here, to deal with our shadow side, because there's people who trigger us. There's stuff that triggers us. And the quantum living process helps us to work with our triggers so that we can deal with who it is we're really here to be. So what I'm describing here is a big transformational process. We are here individually and collectively to transform and to create the beloved community. And it takes some grit. You got grit. You got it. It's a matter of whether you want to use it or not. But we each have it. And as I look at you, I recognize the beloved community. I recognize the presence of the divine. And I love you because you are the presence of the divine. And so it is. Amen. Can you just breathe into that? As we prepare for our time of meditation, I think meditation is so perfect right after the message. This is a time for us to breathe into it, to ground into it, to be it, to go within, to find those unexpected inner resources, UIR. Unexpected inner resources that are in each of us. That presence of light, that presence of love, that presence of truth, the presence of the holy. Each one of us as the beloved community, as we go into the silence. you are like me, the presence of God has been speaking within your own spirit about how to be this presence that is God, how to be this voice, this action, this love that is the beloved community, how to be that in our world.